A killer loose on the streets of Boston.
It was actually kind of chilling to watch his actions.
He stalks, attacks, and kills without warning.
He's not coming after my money, he's coming after my life.
She looked terrifying.
But I can't believe this has happened, and I can't believe what I'm seeing here.
There are not words to describe what we lost and how our lives have forever changed.
Police scramble to catch this killer before he strikes again. And they turn to the one witness that's seen it all.
We were looking at video as quickly as we could.
Can surveillance cameras help catch a monster on a killing spree before it's too late for his next victim? Tuesday, July 23rd, 2013. It's 10 a.m. Work is in full swing at Interactive Media's downtown Boston office.
Coffee black, right? Can you get Phil a black coffee, please?
It starts out as just another day, except for one thing. 24-year-old Amy Lord is late to work. And Amy Lord is never late.
Being late, my sister would never do that. She loved working there. She loved being a part of a team.
No, I haven't heard.
She was just so very sure of herself and what she wanted to do. She had big dreams and she was headed right in the direction of them.
Amy's co-workers call her cell phone over and over. She never picks up the phone, and she doesn't call them back. They call Amy's parents, who live an hour and a half away.
She never showed up for work this morning. I was just wondering if she...
They haven't heard from Amy either. By 11:30, there's still no word. Her manager has seen enough.
I have a staff member...
She calls the police.
Sometime after 11 o'clock, a call came in for a missing person.
There had been a girl who'd gone missing. She'd been reported by coworkers and friends.
Hi, thank you so much. Our colleague here, she didn't show up for work this morning, and then it's so weird that she's not...
There's no family emergency. She's not with her family. This was very unusual for her, so the missing persons report was filed.
Amy, a recent college grad, moved to Boston for a job at a digital marketing company.
Amy was the oldest. I am the youngest. And then we have one sister, 2 years between both of us. I grew up in a small town where everyone knew your name, so it was definitely a big move for her to Boston, but she loved it. She was a very pretty girl, the cheerleader, all that classic, but she kind of had a smart to her that you wouldn't expect. She went to Bentley, which is a great college, and she dual majored there and got a great job right out of college. She moved out with a couple of her roommates about a month after she graduated. She really did like being the city girl, which none of us saw coming. She felt very safe here.
From what police learn, Amy Lord was happy with her life.
We were dealing with a kid who came from a good family, from a nice town. I mean, the picture was of what you would want as a parent.
Police meet Amy's parents at her South Boston apartment at 124 Dorchester Street.
They searched the apartment. They were in the apartment. They were in her room. They seeing if there was any kind of sign of struggle or anything like that.
But there's nothing out of the ordinary at Amy's apartment. No blood, no signs of struggle. Nothing for police to go on.
Can you tell me what kind of vehicle Amy drives?
Jeep Cherokee.
The family confirmed with police that Amy drives a black Jeep Cherokee. And that rings a bell from a report earlier that morning.
The motor vehicle fire was reported.
The bank records showed that starting at about 6:03 a.m. that morning, there was a sequence of 5 different banks that she made or attempted to make withdrawals from. Starting at the Mount Washington Bank, which was just at the end of Dorchester Street, close to her house. Went to a Metro Credit Union right after that, and then to a Bank of America, a Sovereign Bank, and a Citizens Bank. Between those 5 visits, there was just under $1,000 that had been taken out. Obviously, the missing person is concerning. When you find her car burnt, that steps it up even more. Finding out about ATM withdrawals at different banks, you start thinking about the worst.
These ATMs have more in common than just cash. Each has a video camera, and each one records every transaction. Investigators are about to see Amy Lord, or whoever has her ATM card. Police start rounding up the bank videos.
Okay, so where are we at?
The videos will come in one by one, and police will get a close-up view of the horrifying journey of Amy Lord.
Yeah, that's definitely it.
She looked terrified.
A 24-year-old former cheerleader Amy Lord is missing in South Boston. Her car has been found burned out, and her bank records reveal a disturbing trail. Police are fearing the worst, but desperately need to view video from the 5 banks she made withdrawals from.
McLaughlin.
But before they get to see them,
I'm on my way.
that afternoon, as a heavy downpour descends over Boston, another call comes into police. It's the news nobody wants to hear. A cyclist out for an afternoon ride has made a grisly discovery.
Sometime around 4 o'clock, we got notified that a body had been recovered in Hyde Park, out in the Stony Brook Reservation.
It's the body of a young woman, stabbed and strangled to death.
I mean, I basically blue lighted all the way out there. I walked up to the area where her body was found.
Any ID on her at all? Nothing yet.
Based on photos we had of her, we were very sure that it was Amy Lord. I can't believe that this has happened, and I can't believe what I'm seeing here. You know, when you do start flashing back and forth to your own personal failings and your own personal situation, and as a father of 2 young girls at a similar age, those emotions kind of really hit me hard.
Detective Jamie Sheehan must now tell Amy's parents that their daughter is never coming home.
Oh, please sit down. Please sit down.
It's horrible. You're now coming as the bearer of the worst news imaginable.
I'm afraid I have some terrible news.
It changes everything. How you look at your kids, how you look at other people's kids.
I mean, I don't even think I can put that into words. I mean, I don't think there's anything that could really, losing a child like that, and just from such a nice, caring, loving, close family, I don't think you'll ever get over that.
I could go on and on for days about how much I loved her and what she meant to me. That kind of close-knit that you hope sisters would have.
Amy's case is now a murder. Police are depending on a series of 5 ATM videos to give them a lead.
The actual video that was coming in over the course of the day from the different banks.
We were looking at video as it came in, as quickly as we could.
This video is from a Bank of America ATM, where Amy made a withdrawal at 6:35 a.m. It's Amy Lord. She's alone. She appears unhurt, wearing what looks like workout clothes. She simply uses the ATM and leaves. There's nothing out of the ordinary, at least on this piece of video. Police just have to hope, with 4 more videos, there's something more to see. The next footage is from a Citizens Bank vestibule, 12 minutes later, at 6:47 a.m. This time, police see Amy's car pull up outside. And again, police see what looks like another ordinary ATM withdrawal. Once again, she's alone and unhurt. But a replay reveals something they didn't expect. Amy gets in and out of the passenger side of the vehicle. If Amy's in the passenger seat, who's driving?
So we're able to kind of get a very good look at the vehicle, but not the driver.
The next video that police view is from a branch of Sovereign Bank. The timings show Amy used this ATM at 6:40 a.m. and was the 4th bank she visited, and it's much more revealing.
We were able to get a good look at Amy and her condition, the clothing she was wearing.
Having that video, we were able to determine that she had some injuries.
You could see the beginnings of redness and puffiness around her face and around her eyes and her nose. That indicated to us that she had been assaulted.
She looked terrified, in complete, utter shock and dismay, just stunned.
It's clear Amy's under force. But Amy doesn't try to run. She takes out the money, then gets back into the SUV. Police are baffled. Is Amy at the point of an unseen gun? Or is it possible Amy knows her abductor? They turn to her family, looking for answers.
We had explored whether or not any of her close friends believed she may have had a boyfriend or another relationship that might have been causing any problems for her.
We haven't identified anybody that the family says, oh, this person she had a problem with, or this is an ex-boyfriend, or whatever it might be, the things you might look at. I think it was very clear there was nothing done by choice here. This was an abduction.
Another video. This is from a Metro Credit Union ATM, and is actually the 2nd bank Amy visited at 6:10 a.m. This is half an hour before the video revealing the injuries to her face. This ATM might give investigators the answer they need. The camera is focused on the driver's side window.
As the car drove up to the ATM, it was a drive-up ATM. Could definitely see her reaching over. She was in the passenger side. And you could also see that there was a driver in the front seat.
The driver stays out of camera range. Amy looks terrified and injured. They see her left eye is swollen. But then, a flash.
Did you see that?
They finally get a look at the driver.
We were able to identify what appeared to be a male operating Amy Lord's vehicle with Amy Lord withdrawing money from the ATM there.
And that's it right there.
Will this 3-second piece of video be the key to finding Amy Lord's killer? The 24-year-old Amy Lord has been stabbed and strangled to death. Police are tracking her killer with surveillance video as he forces Amy to make withdrawals from one ATM after another. The fourth video has given them a glimpse of him. But it isn't enough. He's covering his face. It's disappointing. But the bank surveillance video has helped police establish a timeline of where Amy was the morning she was murdered. And they're hoping the last piece of bank surveillance video just might reveal the face of her killer. The tape from the first bank Amy withdrew money from finally comes in. This will show the start of Amy's ordeal. The bank is about a mile from Amy's house, and the records show her ATM card was used there at 6:03 a.m.
Here's the car right here.
As the car pulls up, police catch a glimpse of the driver through the glass. But then, spotting the camera pointed right at him, he backs up. When the car pulls forward again, the driver's face is once again covered. Police now see that Amy has already been battered. He backs out of the bank and heads east. Less than 2 hours later, Amy Lord will be dead. But for just a moment, it's the best look yet at their suspect.
We were able to make out a male who was concealing his face by both pulling a t-shirt up over his face, as well as he was wearing a baseball hat, which he would take from wearing backwards and turning it forward and pulling the brim down to further conceal his identity.
And when he adjusts the cap, it reveals a closely shaved head.
So he never got out of the car. While she's leaning over him, he leans back. We were never able to get that full-on frontal picture that we could say, that's him.
What the ATM footage reveals is that Amy was abducted before 6:03. And they believe it probably happened close to her home at 124 Dorchester Street.
Now we got to start looking at 124 Dorchester Street and the cameras in that area.
There are no cameras at Amy's building. But across the street, they see something.
What's that right there?
There's a camera directly across the street that's connected to a convalescent home that's to the right of her building. And they had a security camera that faced their parking lot.
Investigators ask the convalescent home for the video and bring it into the station.
Okay, this is the footage we've been waiting for. Let's get that in, take a look.
And they're in luck.
It just catches just the front door of her building. What it showed was at about 5:37 a.m. You see an individual, not recognizable, walk by her front door, just past the door, and then stop. The door starts to open, and he seems to push through the door, and then the door shuts behind him. When he goes by Amy's hallway, perhaps he sees her coming down or hears her coming down, and that's when he decides to go by, wait a brief period of time, and then almost like he's timing it, as the door opens, he goes in after her. And he remains in that hallway for approximately 15 minutes. We can only speculate as to what went on. All I can say is that any picture I saw of her, all I could think of was the fear that she must have been feeling at the time. And again, that might have gone to something that was said to her in the hallway, knowing where she lived, knowing where her roommates lived, knowing her car, knowing a lot of things that might have caused her to just realize that, you know, I better cooperate, I better do what he says. And so to me, all I can really think about is fear, and it hit me looking at her in some of these videos. Still does.
"15 minutes go by.
Two figures, same figure that went in, and a second figure, which appears to be Amy. And they then go the opposite direction out of the camera view, which was in the direction of where her car was parked. The quality of the video was not good at all. It only allowed us that ability to say they leave here at 5:52 or so, and they're heading towards her Jeep. Based on what we see there, there's one individual involved.
After all that, the video gives investigators just one more piece of the timeline, nothing more. But surveillance video could still help them solve this case. That's because after abducting Amy and taking her to 5 bank ATMs, the killer drove 5 miles to Hyde Park, where her body was found, and then back to South Boston, where the fire department found her torched SUV. Okay. Investigators know the driver would have stopped to buy the accelerant he used to burn Amy's Jeep. Assuming this was gasoline, they focused their search on all gas stations along the route back from Hyde Park.
What have we got going on?
They gathered a group of detectives together from around the city, brought them in and said, listen, we need to find out where he bought gas to burn the car.
They must check all road intersection cameras along the route to pinpoint which gas station he stopped at. But with hundreds of intersection cameras to look through and countless black SUVs on the streets of Boston, it's a mammoth task.
Okay, so we have more footage coming in.
People think, oh, well, you know, you got all this video. Yeah, well, you got to watch it, too.
But there is something that could make finding Amy's SUV on the streets of Boston a little easier.
We learned early on from looking at the bank footage that Amy's car had on the lower left-hand corner of her rear window, it had a sticker which appeared to have a shamrock in the middle of it. It was actually a benefit sticker that was in the window.
But what police don't know is that while they're looking for Amy Lord's killer, he's searching for his next victim.
You gotta be kidding me. Don't tell me this is the same guy.
South Boston, 24-year-old Amy Lord is dead, and police are using surveillance to hunt down her killer. Investigators are focusing their video search for Amy's SUV on the gas stations between Hyde Park and Logan Way, and they get lucky.
That's him.
One of the areas that they focused on was Washington Street, where they saw what appeared to be the same car pulling into a gas station.
There's a white sticker visible in the rear window. Clearly, this is Amy's Jeep. It's signaling to turn right, and police know there's a gas station at the next intersection he'll hit. An officer heads to that gas station to pull the video. If he gets it, police will have the clear frontal view of the killer they've been looking for.
When he got to the gas station, he went in and spoke to the clerk there, and the clerk said, look, our system's broken.
It seems like just another dead end, until the officer notices something.
They saw a liquor store diagonally across the street with external security cameras.
Hi, how are you doing?
They ask the owner to show them the surveillance footage from the morning Amy was killed. They speed through the video, and then, at around 8 a.m., they spot a black SUV pulling into the gas station across the street, and it has a Shamrock sticker on the back. The driver gets out, but the liquor store camera is too far away. They can't see his face. After all that, there's no way to ID the man behind the wheel. But then, police see the driver walk away from the car. He greets someone he clearly knows. Is this person a witness that could lead police to the killer? Before they can do any more with the gas station video or search for that witness, a call comes in.
As the hour just past midnight, a broadcast came out over the radio for a stabbing at 57 Gate Street in South Boston, which was a very short distance from Amy Lord's apartment.
You gotta be kidding me. Now we had a young girl who was stabbed a few blocks away from Amy Lord's home. We all immediately went to thinking, don't tell me this is the same guy.
"21-year-old Kaylee Ballantyne is walking home late from her job at a restaurant.
I walked home just like every other night, and he was on one side of the street, I was on the other side of the street, going opposite directions. And once I punched in the code to my apartment and unlocked the door, he came up from behind me and pushed me in. He started stabbing me, and, you know, I at first thought I was getting robbed, so I gave him my purse, and I gave him my cell phone, and I told him, you know, take whatever you need. And he just looked at me, didn't say anything, and kept stabbing me. So then that's kind of when I knew, you know, he's not coming after my money, he's coming after my life. I was just kicking him as hard as I could. I was screaming. He all of a sudden fell back, and he ran out the door, and I closed the door.
Kaylee Ballantyne is rushed to Boston's Tufts Medical Center ER.
I had 5 stab wounds on my left arm, 2 on my torso, 1 under my left breast, which is a ½ an inch from my heart, and 1 on my left rib cage that collapsed my left lung, and then 2 on my face. I wasn't really frightened until I got into the hospital and I was laying there on the bed and I looked at the doctor and I said, I just want to know, am I going to live?
At the scene of Kaylee's stabbing, detectives spot a trail of blood. And it's not Kaylee's. It leads away from the house and up the street.
It clearly leads away, so you're definitely looking at that as your suspect. And probably either the knife slips in their hand and they cut themselves. In this case, he must have taken a jab and stabbed himself in the opposite hand. But it clearly is your suspect. And it ended pretty abruptly.
I want this taped off. And that's it, it just stops. So what happened?
Could he have gone into a house? Could he have done something to stop the bleeding somehow? Could he put it inside his shirt?
Okay, it stops.
Police will test the blood, but that takes days.
Did he get in a car?
And a monster is on the loose.
This building?
That's when they spot it.
Oh, look at that.
Mounted on the exterior of one of the buildings on Telegraph Street, there was a camera.
A surveillance camera, a few houses down from where the blood trail stops.
Is it recording?
The equipment was working. It was recording.
It's Kaylee's attacker, and he's wrapped his hand up in his t-shirt to stem the bleeding.
Right after Kaylee Ballantyne was stabbed, there was a figure captured walking by that Telegraph Street building with his hand wrapped up.
He takes his shirt off and he wrapped it around his hand.
The shirt might have stopped the bleeding and the blood trail. But by taking it off, the suspect reveals something. Detectives enlist the help of forensic video expert John Green.
The tank top exposed his tattoos, which was very fortuitous for us.
His specialist video lab at Suffolk County District Attorney's Office enables even the most low-quality video to be analyzed for forensic evidence.
He had a number of tattoos, praying hands with rosary beads through it, the Boston Red Sox B, and then there was the area code 617 distinctly on his arms.
Okay, that's definitely him. Can we tighten in on that?
The tattooed man from the surveillance video is now their one and only suspect.
Can we tighten in on that?
Can they track him down before he attacks another innocent woman? South Boston, Massachusetts. In less than 24 hours, 2 women in their early 20s have been attacked. Amy Lord has been murdered. Kaylee Ballantyne is alive and fighting for her life at the Tufts Medical Center. And Kaylee isn't the only patient to arrive at the hospital with a stab wound.
Shortly after she arrived, someone self-admitted to the same emergency room.
An individual had just walked in with a stab wound to his hand.
Could it be the attacker they caught on surveillance video?
We responded to New England Medical Center.
Hey, how you doing?
His name is Edwin Alamany.
This is your chart here, right?
He tells investigators he hurt his hand during a fight at a gas station. But there is one thing police can check to see if Alemany is lying. Tattoos.
We were able to observe several tattoos on his arms, which were consistent in shape and size relative to the video surveillance from Telegraph Street.
Praying hands draped in rosary beads. The Boston Red Sox B and the 617 area code. They're all there.
He was placed under arrest at that point for the stabbing of Kaylee Ballantyne.
Officers take his fingerprints, get DNA samples, and take the shoes and clothes he's wearing. Police now have the man who attacked Kaylee. But the question is, did Edwin Alemany kill Amy Lord?
Right to remain silent.
Investigators still have no real evidence connecting the cases. They are pinning their hopes on tracking down the witness from the liquor store CCTV footage.
Reviewing that video, you could see that after her car pulled in, the operator got out of the car and walked to the middle of Washington Street and actually greeted someone in the middle of the street. After talking to the owner further, he was able to tell investigators who the driver of Amy Lord's car met. That particular person lived right across the street from the gas station. Investigators went to that address, knocked on the door, met the person, and it turned out to be a longtime friend. And he said that person was Edwin Alemany.
Edwin Alemany, the man under arrest for stabbing Kaylee Ballantyne.
The video was critically important because we were able now to put him in her car right after the murder had been committed.
But investigators still need proof he killed her. And when the results come back, DNA evidence seals this monster's fate.
DNA specialists were able to identify spots on his sneakers that were matched to Amy Lord.
Edwin Alemany had murdered Amy Lord.
Edwin Alemany, a killer who shows no remorse. After brutally murdering Amy, he casually spends her money on cell phones, lottery tickets, beers, eats in a Chinese restaurant, and fools around with friends.
Yet just about the time that her body is being recovered, he and one of the other guys are out in front of the Chinese restaurant smoking a cigarette. What was striking about that is that this is what we're finding over here, and the horrifying nature of it. And this guy's out acting the fool out in front of this Chinese restaurant, smoking butts and just kind of like not a care in the world.
Then, after a late-night argument with his girlfriend, he's back out on the streets looking for another victim when he preys on Kaylee Ballantyne. After leaving her for dead, he goes into a gas station to buy cigarettes, showing the cashier his bleeding hand, claiming it was injured in a fight. But why does he embark on this savage spree?
His motive for his actions were just a complete disdain for women and contempt for society. For killing Amy, I think it had gotten so far and he had done so much at that point that he had no other option.
After a 3-week trial, the verdict comes in. On June 8th, 2015, in front of Amy's family and Kaylee Ballantyne.
Is he not guilty or guilty of murder in the first degree as charged?
Guilty.
Edwin Alamedi is sentenced to life in prison without parole for the murder of Amy Lord and the brutal attack on Kaylee Ballantyne.
I was anxious to get up on the stand, and I wanted him to know that I'm sitting here and you're sitting there and you're gonna be behind bars for the rest of your life, and I'm gonna go out and I'm still gonna be able to live my life. And not only live my life, but you know, I'm living it for Amy Lord too. I don't want anyone to think that I'm ever gonna forget her.
I could never find the words that could ever express what is truly in my heart. There are not words to describe what we lost and how our lives have forever changed.
There's a hole no one can replace. It really just makes you value what you have, in that it can be gone in a moment. The way things ended had nothing to do with her or who she was. I would like her to be remembered just for her happy and youthful spirit. She wouldn't want us here miserable in her memory. She wouldn't want to think something that happened to her ruined our lives too. We're gonna do all the things she can't. We're gonna make her proud. And we're really just not gonna let her memory die. We're gonna finish what she started.